Okay, so our first exercise we're going to go through is just our idiot shoe tie exercise. So this is a mobilization for the pelvis and a bit of a stretch for the low back. Now if you only need to do this on one side, you really should just focus on that one side. So we're going to basically just put a foot up on an elevated surface. This could be a chair or whatever, something that's up about 16 inches high, or at least like the height of your opposite knee. And then just kind of leaning forward into this, hanging out here, taking some big deep breaths. So basically it's stabilizing this side of the leg and kind of turning that backwards, and so you should feel that as a little bit of stretch in the low back, and try to direct your breath into that space. You breathe deeply in there. From there, we're going to get a couple of side bending stretches for the low back. So we'll start here. As though you're lying straight on your side, you could feel like you squeeze your glutes, or you squeeze your hips together and kind of press that lower leg back behind you. You can bring the front leg forward about a foot and a half, and then kind of prop yourself up here. So we're still trying to maintain some of that tension of the lower leg, squeezing that glute. The front leg can be a little bit more relaxed. And then as we set this position up, we're trying to kind of square and broaden that shoulder, using the lats to kind of drive the shoulder away from the ear, create some space here, and strong into the whole hand into the ground. So we're just going to kind of breathe really deeply here in this position. If you're not feeling a stretch in that lower back kind of side area, you should probably try rotating the pelvis a little bit, so you can just kind of turn a little bit more forward and see if that brings you a stretch. Once you get a little bit of a stretch, you're going to hang out there and do a series of deep breaths, full exhales and full inhales. And as that starts to feel like it's loosening up, you can progress into lowering this knee, or bending the knee up to about a 90-degree bend, and bringing that knee onto the ground. That'll bring you into some further rotation and may just redistribute that stretch. So you can kind of work in this position for another series of 5 to 10 deep breaths, and then you can work on what I like to think of as sort of like a cat position from cat-cow in yoga. So like pressing your back into a slightly more rounded shape, and or like trying to press the mid-back away from you behind, and that will often kind of bring that stretch back in again. So we can do a little bit more work there. Mindful this shoulder wants to sneak up on us, so try to keep pressing that ground away there, and then we can repeat that stretch for the other side. From there, we can get into our side bending stretches with gate pose from yoga. So this is basically just stacking up on one side, feeling strong into a straight leg out here, raising one arm overhead and coming into a side bend. And the further that you start to lean, the more that you're going to need to kind of weight bear into this side. So feeling that tension as though you're pushing the floor away from this side will give you a base of support that can allow you to continue side bending. We want to be mindful of the alignment of the trunk here, so try to keep the ribs and hips square to one another. So on this side, at the glute, we're squeezing the glute. Actually, really on both sides, we're trying to kind of squeeze the glutes, tuck the tailbone down, use the abdominal muscles to pull the front of the pelvis up to the ribs, and then kind of keeping that distance as we start to lean over. And then just kind of strong into this leg, and that's going to allow you to move a little deeper and a little deeper as you go, continuing to work with deep breathing to get deeper into that position. Once we've done those, we'll come into our active hip work, and we're just going to get one arm onto a surface that's, again, somewhere around kind of knee height, or somewhere around the same height as your femur here. So that allows you to be in a relatively horizontal position from the trunk. From here, you can straighten one leg out, get your balance, and then put your hand on your pelvis. And from there, we're going to work on just kind of lowering the hip and turning the shoulders. You can even turn your eyes so you look a little bit to one side. and then we're gonna kind of turn up the other direction. And so, yeah, this is a challenging balance exercise for your hip, as well as a strength exercise to help open up into that position. If you feel like kind of almost too shaky to make this worthwhile, then using both hands overhead can be helpful, especially at first, allowing you to kind of work into a full range of movement. So we want to do about 5 repetitions. After you've done about 5 repetitions, you can, without really changing much else, just change the position of your knee. So if you bring the knee forward about, let's say, 4 or 5 inches, now you're going to be in a more flexed position at the hip. Okay, so now we can actually just continue. All right, but let's assume we at least did the other side first, so we want to kind of alternate and give this hip a chance to rest. But then as we get back to our second set, so maybe second group of 5 exercises here, then we're in a slightly more flexed position at the hip. And again, one more time, we can make one further adjustment. Now we're sitting into near end range hip flexion, and we can continue working on opening that up. Okay, so those are our exercises for like lateral, abdominal, and low back kind of opening, correcting a little bit of a pelvic rotation, and then kind of working to really solidify some strength and range of motion gains into the hip.